Well, hello there, and welcome to episode 100 of the Unfuck Your Biz podcast. As always, this is your host, Braden. In today's episode, extra special, extra exciting. It is episode 100. Now, fun fact for everyone, I'm going to start putting the videos of these podcast episodes on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, you missed the first 99 episodes. So go check it out in the podcast app. For the rest of you, though, you're in the right place. Very exciting because, again, like I said, it's episode 100. So I'm here to celebrate. And I also have a super special announcement. So my book that I've been working on for the past several months is now available. So you can go to www.unfuckyourbizbook.com to grab a copy. You're going to love it. I promise. Now, I had some big hopes for this episode of the podcast. It's obviously a big milestone, which I'm very happy that I've hit within 1 year of launching the podcast. So I launched it actually, I want to say like October 30th of last year. It was the end of October 2019. And my goal was to really treat you all to a whole new experience. So here in my office, I got a new camera so I could up-level my video quality. Obviously, that's not really helping you if you're listening to the podcast. But my goal was also to get a new microphone as well. So I could probably make this one do, but I know the audio is a little echoey, not the best. Some of you may not notice, but my goal was to get a really high quality microphone to really, take this whole show to the next level. So you may have noticed that we have a new intro now. That's super fun. We're going to be doing some new editing and things like that. As you know, the podcast before was pretty scrappy. I just kind of pieced it together. But unfortunately, the microphone didn't happen. I had to make a last minute trip a couple weeks ago to go to my grandma's funeral, which was obviously very unfortunate. And then I've had a lot of other stuff happening in the past month. August and September also tend to be slow seasons in my business for, various reasons that we don't have to get into detail with. It's just kind of how the seasons fluctuate. And so all of those things kind of coupled together meant that I did not have the budget to get my new equipment this month. And don't worry, that doesn't mean that, I'm going broke or that my business is like really dying. It just means that I didn't have it in my cash flow. And I tell you this because I think it's really important to lead by example. So obviously here on the podcast, I talk a lot about profit, a lot about cash flow. I teach my students how to set up their cash flow in a way that just allocates a sliver of their business income towards business expenses so that they can pay themselves the rest of the money. That's what I do as well. So only 15% of my business income gets put into a business expense account. I know what my own monthly overhead is in my business, and the equipment I wanted to get was going to cost me about $800. So before I can get that, I have to have at least $800 more than my monthly expenses in my bank account. And when you're talking about 15% of business income, that can take, it can take me a few weeks to save. Obviously, if you have a 7-figure business, you don't got to worry about that. But for the rest of us, we have to save up to it. So that's the way I teach my students to do their cash flow. Fun tip for you, just an inside scoop of how I have my business operating. We can't always buy what we want for our business the day that we want to buy it. That's totally okay. So what's next on my outline here? I hope that you enjoyed the new intro. Higher audio is coming. Meanwhile, like I said, the book is now available. So if you haven't been following the process, I started my book process back in, I don't even know, like April. I had a meeting with my book coach. We talked about the goals of the book. I actually planned on releasing it in like spring of 2021, but she was basically like, why not fall? And that seemed like a stretch to me, but I thought, yeah, sure, why not? Let's do it. So she gave me 6 weeks to write the book. And then we went through the whole editing process. So I took 3-4 weeks to edit it myself. Then she went through 3 rounds of edits, and then we had to get a typeset, and then we had to get it approved through the printer. It's like a whole long process. Well, not really that long, just a few months, but it feels like a long process. But now the book is ready for you to get. So you can go to my website and buy your copy. It should be shipped out within a couple of weeks. So very exciting for me, at least. Hopefully everyone thinks it's exciting as well. Meanwhile, I didn't want this episode to just be celebration and self-promotion because, obviously you are not listening to the podcast just to hear me talk about all the shit that I have to sell you all the time. Got to be educational, right? To bring you the value. So what I thought would be fun is for me with episode 100, just to do a look back at some of my favorite episodes and the ones that I think that you could get immense value from. So I have 7 episodes that I pulled out of the first 100. The first one is episode number 10, which was titled Stop Paying for Bullshit. So pretty popular episode. I basically just do my ranting and raving like I like to do on certain legal and tax services that I think are a waste of money. So if you're curious, if I piqued your interest, go check out episode number 10. Episode 21, this one might be the one that I refer people to the most. And this is an episode on sales tax. So the title is Laying the Groundwork for Sales Tax. I interview my good friend Amy, who is a sales tax expert. She knows like all the things with regard to sales tax. And whenever I get sales tax questions, I send people straight to episode 21. Amy and I have since done several different interviews, but this one really lays the groundwork. If you're listening to the podcast and you're thinking, Braden, how do I hear about all the sales tax episodes? Pretty simple. Go to my website, bradendrake.com. Click the podcast tab, and then you can filter by topic. So there's a sales tax tag. You can click that and then see all the episodes that I've recorded with Amy. But you want to start with that one. One way that I decided I really wanted to structure this podcast when I started it last year was to be constantly answering questions within my own expertise, and then to bring on recurring guests that could answer questions that are outside of my specific expertise. So Amy's done 5 sales tax episodes, and then we've done similar things with other topics, and we'll continue to do that as well. Episode 25 is the next episode that I would recommend. This one is me talking about my personal profit and my journey to increase cash flow in my business. So I just shared with you my story about my microphone a little over a year ago. That's not something I would have done. I would have just said, I have enough money, I'll just buy the damn microphone. Now I reallocate money, taxes to tax first and foremost, then to retirement account, and then to joint account with my spouse so we can, work on personal expenses and make sure that all of this money is being properly allocated before I spend any money on my business, which I think is very important, helps us stay profitable. But if you want to look into what that process was like for me, go back and check out episode number 25. The next one, we're going to take a leap to episode 51, where I talk about the WTF happened to my money hamster wheel. So what the fuck happened to my money hamster wheel? So this is a similar kind of topic. You can probably guess what that episode's about, but it's a pretty fun one. You can go give that one a quick listen as well. On episode 55, I discussed the Unfuck Your Biz framework. So this is the framework that I teach inside of my signature course, which you've all probably heard about. It's also the framework that I'm going to be teaching inside of my book. So if you grab a copy of the book will actually walk you through my 5-step framework to help you unfuck your biz and get your legal and tax shit legit. So that's a great primer if you're curious about the framework. Episode 65 was Money Blocks with Denise Duffield Thomas. If you all don't know Denise, you should go check her out. She's incredible. She's a small business owner and author, and a lot of her work is around money mindset. So her most well-known book probably is Get Rich Lucky Bitch. I read it a couple times. I highly recommend it. She also last year released a book called Chillpreneur, which is, I would say it's just like loaded with amazing like business tips. It's not necessarily like one specific topic, but especially if you're a newer business owner, I would give it a read. Even if you're a more experienced business owner, I took a lot out of it as well. I listened to the audiobook. I always recommend Denise's audiobooks because they're just very entertaining. So go give that one a listen. That was an interview I was very excited to do. We talked about all kinds of money blocks. I did not intentionally, when I put this list together, intend to talk all about like money, profit, and expenses, but that kind of seems to be the recurring theme. Maybe it's because I talk about LLCs and contracts almost on a daily basis. So the other episodes stand out more. So that was episode 65. And then episode 88 is the last one of the 7 that I put on this little recap list. And this was the episode that I did just a few weeks ago with my friend Kelly Keller, who owns the Keller Law Firm. Kelly is an intellectual property expert, primarily trademark, and that episode was intellectual property for your creative business. So similar to how I always send people to my sales tax episode, if anyone ever has questions on trademark, we send them straight to this episode with Kelly. So Kelly and I actually recorded 5 episodes. We will for sure do more in the future, but that kind of, again, laid the groundwork for trademark and IP questions that you all probably have. So that's it. That's my recap. Hope this was a fun celebratory episode. It's kind of hard to celebrate on a podcast. I can't really like throw balloons or confetti or anything, but you know, it is what it is. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Go check out those 7 episodes. Again, if you want to grab a copy of the book, it's at www.unfuckyourbizbook.com. It's $29. That includes shipping. We're actually taking the order straight on my website. And then myself and my VA will be sending out the copies to everyone who purchases. So hoping, I mean, you know me, I'm an overshare with everything. My really big goal is to sell 500 copies in the first few weeks. We'll see. Hopefully you'll be one of them. And when you do get a copy, share it with your friends, share on Instagram. And also, I should have plugged this at the beginning, episode number 100. If you've been an avid listener of the podcast and you've not left a review, I would love for you to do that. The reviews are super helpful on iTunes to help the show gain traction. So I will leave the self-promotion there for the day. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I will be back in your podcast app in just a couple of days for episode 101. See you then.